Hello, here we are again. Anybody here? Hi Caroline, good. I think you're the first in again. Just give it a few minutes just to let everyone catch up. Hi Sandy. Hello Russ. Hello Julie. So, lockdown live number 7. It's hard to believe where this time has disappeared to. Just a feedback from last week. Strange enough, lots of arthritis Facebook groups kept popping up in my timeline, but one really sort of sparked my interest, and it seems to be a really good resource and a really good natural health advocate. I posted a few things in there over this week, and they've asked me to join them as a moderator, so do come along and have a look. It's called Osteoarthritis Natural Warriors, and I think it's a pretty good resource. So, first and foremost, we just have a little disclaimer as usual, that this evening's live event is for educational purposes and contains general information regarding medical conditions and treatments. Individualized care and advice should be provided by a qualified healthcare provider. There we go, I feel like an insurance company now. So, we're going to have a little chat about CBD this evening. It's got a lot of good press, but I think there's still a bit of fear surrounding it. And I had a little look for references to sort of cannabis in pop music, and you couldn't be surprised, there's quite a lot. Throughout the decades, from sort of like the Beatles and Black Sabbath to Bob Marley and Snoop Dogg. But I don't really want to focus on that, so we're not going to do a quiz on that. Because I think it detracts from the message about the health advantages of cannabidiol, CBD. We'll stick to CBD with it. As those references tend to be more on the effects of the psychoactive part, the tetrahydrocannabinol, which is THC. Interestingly though, forensic testing has found traces in William Shakespeare's pipes and the odd reference in some of his sonnets. So there you go. Maybe that gave him some creativity. I'm going to say there still does seem to be a bit of fear and reticence when discussing CBD, and people ask me almost in hushed tones whether they should take it or not. So I thought tonight we'd try and clear that up a little bit. Over the last 5, 6, 7 years, it's been getting quite a lot of good press because there has been better quality research coming out over it. And we're specifically focusing on the legal hemp-derived CBD here. There are a whole range of chemicals within the cannabis plant itself. And it's been around for thousands of years. Hemp's been cultivated, and there's so many uses in modern society. There is a little list from textiles, industrial textiles, building materials, body care, in paper manufacturing, in foods, and very much in health. So, a few years back, when there seemed to be quite a lot of hype about it, I thought, well, okay, I'm going to try it out myself, just see what it does. Because there was a lot of research and people were asking about it, so I tried to educate myself on these things. And I took it for, I think it was 2 weeks, and then literally my golf handicap changed from 20 to 13 within 4 weeks. Whether it was to do with the CBD, I don't know. Whether it was the CBD relaxing things, reducing stress and anxiety, thus improving play, possibly. It could have been coincidental, but it certainly seemed to have a good effect. But stupidly, like we all often do, is when it runs out, we forget to renew it and carry on with it, which I didn't. And then things certainly deteriorated, as my golf partners will certainly testify to. Oh, I said we're focusing on just the legal cannabidiol oil. Cannabidiol itself is one of 100 cannabinoids, which are chemical compounds found in the cannabis sativa plant. Marijuana and hemp are both different strains of the cannabis sativa, and it's been bred over thousands of years for slightly different purposes. The marijuana part contains THC and CBD. Hemp doesn't contain THC, but nothing above 0.3 milligrams, which is almost by definition why it's hemp and not marijuana. So THC is the main psychoactive cannabinoid found in plant, and it's the one that gives the high, which is associated with it. And obviously it's legal here. So I want to clarify that CBD is not psychoactive at all, and it is not illegal in this country. CBD oil gives the opportunity for the sort of the therapeutic health effects without the psychoactive element. In the research, THC does seem to have some therapeutic effects, but it also has effects on people's brainwaves quite a lot, which is not always desirable, especially for some people who are maybe a little bit more sensitive. I think this is fascinating. There was an experiment to see how spider webs changed when spiders were subjected to various drugs. Cannabis was one of them. As you can see here, you can see the effects on the webs of the spiders under that influence. We can see it there like a normal, no external chemicals. And then you can see the one with LSD, which is obviously quite fractured. Then marijuana itself is obviously missing big gaps out there. Sleeping pills, that has a big effect. And look at caffeine, and that really does fracture that spider web. So it's interesting just to bear in mind that it does affect our brain chemistry, not always positively. But I thought that was a really interesting one. So CBD itself doesn't create that effect, by the way, so I'll make that point. That's the THC effect. CBD oil itself is made by extracting CBD from the plant and diluting it to various degrees with a carrier oil, it's often hemp seed oil itself. There's been lots of studies demonstrating its therapeutic effects, but before we take a look at the evidence, I think it's worth having a quick look at the system that it affects. It's the endocannabinoid system, or the ECS, as it's easier to say. And here's just a little picture of a lot of the receptors. So there's receptors in the central nervous system, in the gastrointestinal system, the endocrine system, in bones, in the immune system, to do with metabolism and muscles. And the endocannabinoid system is involved in regulating a variety of those functions, including sleep, appetite, pain, immune system response. But as we've said numerous occasions previously, there's no one system that works in isolation. They're all extremely interconnected, but it appears that the ECS has its fingers in many pies. I quite like that picture of it, which is probably why it's reported effects on so many different and varied parts of the body, because it has an overall effect on all the other systems of the body. So the ECS produces neurotransmitters called endocannabinoids, which bind to receptors in the nervous system. And studies have shown that CBD may help by impacting that receptor activity, therefore reducing inflammation. That doesn't mean you can ignore all the other strategies we've talked about: diet, exercise, rest, good gut microbiome, all the stuff we've been talking about. That is still critical. This is just an extra layer. So if you see in this picture here, on the bottom corner there, in purple, that's a neuron. That's where the nerves will send their information across to one another, and it will release the receptors, the neurotransmitters, to make that chemical information pass out from one nerve to the other. And there are a couple of receptors in the nervous system, CB1, and then the ones more in the periphery, CB2. CB1 receptors are the ones that THC affects more of, and CB2 cannabinol, but CBD will have a strong effect on both those receptors. So just a little bit, just to sort of picture where this is working on. So to the research backing up the use of it, I don't want to just sort of bring here, say, oh, this could be good for this, it could be that. These are real world applications, and they are evidenced. And I'll supply all the references at the end if you want to do a bit more research on it, just so you can, for your own edification. And this obviously isn't an exhaustive list. Anecdotally, there are probably far more potential benefits, as can be seen by the amount of ECS receptors in the body we've just seen in that picture. But the research is nowhere near catching up at the moment, so for now let's, dare I say it, follow the science. So one thing it's fairly well established is pain relief. The whole plant's been recorded as being used to treat back pain as far back as 2900 BC, but CBD itself is the main component responsible for its pain relieving effects. Generally 20 to 35 milligrams seem to be the best range, but we'll talk a bit about dosing later because it's very different for different people. In a few rat studies, it was found that CBD reduced sciatic nerve pain and inflammation, and even reduced pain in response to surgical incisions. So that's quite impressive. So CBD has some effect on mental health, some positive effects on mental health. Although it's important to recognise that if you take the illicit with THC, that's been associated frequent long-term use with risk of development of schizophrenia or psychosis. There's moderate evidence for suicidal thoughts, and there's emerging evidence for risk of depression. That's with THC. This may just be in susceptible people though, but the fact that many people illicitly use it to help with anxiety, it could be contributing long-term to the problem. However, that is not linked to CBD. CBD itself has shown great promise as a treatment for both depression and anxiety. There was a Brazilian study that found that taking 300 milligrams of CBD was most effective at significantly reducing the anxiety of public speaking. Interestingly, the placebo was 150 milligram, and that had little to no effect, but neither did taking 600 milligrams. So it does seem to be very dose dependent. CBD is biphasic, which means that low doses and high doses can produce opposite effects. Small doses tend to be stimulatory, and high doses tend to be more inhibitory. With regards to mental health, it's also been used to treat insomnia and anxiety with children with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. And it's thought that it's due to CBD's ability to act on the serotonin receptors in the brain. We talked about serotonin in the sleep chat a few weeks back. It's also been found to help with chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting, which can be very useful for those having to go through that treatment. And that may just help with the symptoms a little bit. There's been some evidence to suggest it can. It can be helpful for skin and acne. There's research show that CBD can be helpful with acne due to its anti-inflammatory abilities and its ability to reduce sebum production. So this is still quite early research, but the results so far have been promising. This is interesting. It's also neuroprotective, so it protects the nervous system. And although the research on this is still fairly early, several studies have shown that it improved quality of life and sleep for those with Parkinson's disease. And animal studies suggest it might be beneficial in preventing or delaying the neurodegeneration of Alzheimer's disease. So I mean, that could be massive. That really could. It's also had lots of positive effects on heart health. One study showed that 600 milligrams of CBD oil reduced resting blood pressure compared to a placebo. And then when they performed a stress test on that same group, those who'd had the CBD had a smaller increase than normal in their actual response to it. So this, again, probably because of its potent anti-inflammatory action, but it also be found it reduces oxidative stress and it prevents heart damage in mice. So obviously there's ongoing research, but again, something else looks quite encouraging. So let's get rid of those. So they would say they're all the evidenced ones, which I think is quite interesting. But the World Health Organization, the WHO, have said that CBD does not exhibit effects indicative of abuse or dependence potential. In other words, it is safe and it is non-addictive. That's also been evidenced. So I think that's quite good to know. Now, as I said earlier, dosing is sometimes difficult to get right. Generally, you want to start low and build up. And start at night, because initially it can potentially cause some fatigue for the first couple of days for some people as it starts to balance things up. It isn't going to work overnight. It is a build-up over a period of time. It's a build-up trying to find the right dose for you, that therapeutic dose that's going to affect the symptoms you're experiencing. If you're having the oil itself, hold it under the tongue for 3 minutes and it'll absorb easier there, bypass the stomach. Although the company that I tend to use, the Can family, they also supply water-soluble drops or spray that you can sort of put in water or drinks and take it that way, and that can be absorbed gastrically. There's a link to the Can family on my website under useful links. There we are. You can go to that, and under useful links there's one saying the Can family at the bottom there. But they're great. They've got a whole range of different products which I think can be quite useful. They've got their normal, that's their skin CBD oil, which you can put on top of it. They've got a hand sanitizer that they've just brought out recently, which is very effective. That's the classic one that goes under the tongue, hold it 3 minutes. and then that's the water soluble one that you can put in drinks and drink, and you still absorb it all. So, and that's another one that they've developed as well. It's got some curcumin in it, so it's even more anti-inflammatory. You can see I've been playing around with some of these effects now in a little slideshow. So dosing, start slow and low, and gradually build up, so you don't want to overwhelm your receptors. So this is, I quite like this little way of looking at it. Week 1, have 1 drop 3 times daily, but then maybe a night to start off with. Week 2, 2 drops 3 times a day, and you can see 3 drops. It's just a nice, simple way of building up to a therapeutic dose that's right for you. And again, it is different for everybody. The dosing is the trickiest thing I find with it. CBD oil itself is quite unregulated, so it's important to use a pure and reliable source. The label should say clearly how many milligrams it contains. Places like sort of eBay, where you're getting from there, you don't really know what you're getting, you don't know what you're taking, and some of them even contain THC, which would be illegal and have effects that are potentially unexpected and could even fail a blood test, a drug test. CBD itself is absolutely fine with that. As we said before, it's not illegal. It doesn't give you the high, and it doesn't show up in blood test. There'd be no reason for it to. Try and ensure that they're members of the Cannabis Trade Association. That's got minimum standards that their members have to abide by, so I think that's really important. And that's another reason why I've been using the Canny family for the last 3-4 years, because they are pure, they're ethical, they're organic, and they're family run here in the UK. I like that they do that whole end of the products. And what I like even more is at the moment they're offering a 25% discount. So if you fancy getting some, now would be time to do it. So there's a link on the back of the website for that. So, side effects, always quite important to know about that. Generally, it's really well tolerated by people. Occasionally, some side effects can be diarrhea, changes in appetite, weight and fatigue, but it's very rare for it. But there is a couple of absolute contraindications, so things that we shouldn't be taken with. Anyone taking valproic acid, sodium valproate, that's used for bipolar, sometimes for migraines, and sometimes epilepsy, or clobazam, which is used for epilepsy seizures. So those ones, don't take it with that, because it can affect it. Other medications, it should be used with caution with medications that come with that grapefruit warning. So if you're unsure, if you're taking any regular medication, check with your GP or pharmacist, because you'll be on the safe side. But generally say it's well tolerated, but it's the anti-epileptics really seems to be the major indication. So this isn't a cure-all, and if you don't take the other aspects of the triad of health, there we go, into consideration, then you are, at best, papering over cracks. Get the foundations laid first, then consider adding things like CBD. There are no magic bullets in life. You have to take responsibility yourself. Look at your diet, look at your exercise, look at what you're doing in your environment. They're the bits that you can deal with. There have been a few people promoting its use for coronavirus recently, but there's no substantial evidence that it does help. Who knows, it's going to help in general if it improves things, but there's nothing specific that I've seen that does help with it. But don't forget, now we have to stay alert and control the virus. That's our latest advice. That's very useful to know. These are the actual references I've used. You're not going to see all those, so I'm just going to I'll pop those in the comments box afterwards. I think that could be quite useful there. And that really is it about CBD. It's not a particularly long one, but I just felt it was something that needed clearing up a little bit. So because a lot of people do seem to be a little bit concerned about it, and there's a bit of fear around there, where it's actually a really, really useful thing to have for lots of people. It can sometimes just be that missing link to improve people's health. So I'm going to have a little look at the comments. Catching up there. Hi to my mum. Hi to Jessica again. Hello. Hi Matt, not cricket weather. It very much is not cricket weather, John. It is very windy and grim out there, which is a shame after yesterday. Hi Tammy, back again, that's good. Hello, Micheline. Uh, Doctor, I've been on your waiting list for about 3 years. Well, yeah, my waiting list is about 3 years generally. Um, you're a very patient person, well, that's good. Unfortunately, with this hiatus we've had, it pushes things on a little bit, but I am doing telehealth consultations, which don't need the waiting list at the moment. Hi from Ray and Linda. Hi, Ray and Linda again. Good to see you, and Sandy again. Lovely. Nice overlays from Ella. Thanks, Els. I'm glad you approve. I'm getting down with the media. Julie again. Hello, Julie Craft. Ray Johnson about where do you get it? Yeah, well, Ray, follow the link from the website and it'll take you to the Canny family. They're great. You don't seem very loud tonight. Oh, I was a bit late for that now, I'm afraid, Mum. Graham, I've been taking this for a while. Now, certainly it helps with pain relief, makes it more bearable, sleep better as well. Brilliant. That's great, Graham. But again, it's trying to find that dose that works for you. It's awful background noise. Oh, I haven't got any in here, so I don't know about that. Trudy, does CBD oil react with other drugs? My Shergans and fibroflorb have not a lot of pain and strength. Oh, it's Tammy as well. Pain. Let's just see if I can move that. I don't know if that microphone will change things. It's probably a little bit late now. Horse and bolted. So yeah, it's mostly the anti-epileptics, Trudy. Lots of background noise. Right. Okay, I think the sound thing might be the fan on the computer. I've just moved the microphone. Can you let me know if that's... It is clear. Oh, sorry. I've moved the microphone backwards and left it there earlier. Oh, that's annoying, isn't it? Sorry about that. Any other bits that you wanted clarifying? Lucky we had the overlays, I guess. Oh dear, that was my fault. I'm guilty as charged on that one. I'll make sure I put it in the right place in the future. So, I've got a couple of things in mind for next week, but it depends upon our... it depends on what happens this evening, I guess, as well as to when we may be opening and when not. We're putting lots of procedures in place at the moment, ready for a potential opening at some point. It may just be emergency only. We're doing things at the moment like, I'll give you a quick brief overlay. For a start, I'll have to wear PPE, so that'll be a mask, goggles if we're doing any aerosol inducing activities like some of the manipulations we use, an apron that'll be wipeable, there'll be gloves, which there's a little bit of possibility hand washing is going to be good enough. I'm changing the carpet to wooden flooring, so that's easier to clean as the virus drops down. We'll have to limit our actual face-to-face time, so I'll be sending out forms via email before the appointment, so you can give me all your update information there first, so that'll save 5 minutes then, and afterwards for any recommendations I'll email you with with any exercises or supplements and things like that. We'll have to get people washing their hands, face masks yourself, or a scarf around the mouth. There's lots of things. I'll write it all down and I'll send an email to everybody beforehand, but at the moment we're just trying to get all the PPE. We're trying to make our environment here as safe as possible. Nothing's going to be 100%, but we'll do our best. So, oh, that's interesting. Some people... We could just about hear you, so it wasn't wash out. Thanks, Sammy. Oh, well, looks like some could and some couldn't. Yeah. Dare I say, the elderly folk there, Mother. Photo, please? What's that of, Russ? Right. Oh, with all the PPE in place. Yes, maybe. Trudy, the amount would be start off with 1 drop 3 times a day. And start off with the weakest one there is, the lower dosage one, because if it's more expensive the higher dose it is, and if you can get the symptom relief with low dose, fine. So that's what we want, really. Okay. I'll catch up with you all next week for... I have excellent hearing. Oh dear, pushed a button there, I think. Catch up with you next week, and I'll see you in the next few days which direction we're going to go in. So we've got a few things. It could be about clinic opening. It could be about autoimmune disease, which has been asked for. Somebody's asked for some weight loss ones as well. So there's a variety. Yes, Sandy, that's right. There's lots of forums and we're all talking about the same sort of things, which has been really good, but it's been nice to talk to other professionals about the same problems we're all experiencing. Simon likes my skeletons. Thanks, Simon. Well, people need to sign a disclaimer. That'll be something before I send out the update forms, there'll be a triaging. So we'll send an email form asking you if you've got any symptoms, temperature, things like that, and we'll need to get that back returned, assuming everything's okay. If you're within the vulnerable groups or you've been told to shield, we won't be able to see you. It will change the way we're practicing, unfortunately. I don't think there's any two ways about that. So we'll do our best, and I'll tell you more when I know more. So I think well, that's true. Trudy, yeah, that's a good point. Reliance on lip reading. I might just have to nudge you in one direction or the other. But I'll see if there's a see-through one, maybe. I don't know if that will comply with the regulations. Okay, take care, everybody. Keep well, and we'll tune in again next week. Bye.